Right now, somewhere, someone is turning red. Maybe they tripped in public, maybe they got caught in a lie, maybe someone just complimented them and they didn't know where to look. Their heart rate barely changes, nothing about the moment is dangerous, and yet blood is rushing to their face like they're under attack. You've done this too, thousands of times, and you've never once decided to do it. That's the strange part. You can hold your breath, you can clench your fist, you can force a smile even when you don't mean it, but you cannot choose to blush. And you cannot choose to stop one once it starts. Your face is being operated by something other than you. So what is actually happening? Charles Darwin was the first person to study this seriously, and it bothered him more than almost anything else he wrote about. He called blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions, not because it was rare, because it made no sense. Every other emotional expression he catalogued had an obvious survival use. Fear tightens the body to fight or flee. Anger reddens the face to intimidate a rival, but blushing does the opposite of both. It doesn't prepare you to fight, it doesn't prepare you to run, it just announces, to everyone watching, that you are exposed. Think about what that means for a moment. If you were being chased by a predator 10,000 years ago, the last thing your body should do is broadcast your fear to the group. Vulnerability should be hidden. Instead, evolution built a mechanism that does the opposite. It puts your internal state on a screen for everyone to see. Why would a species survive by advertising its own embarrassment? The answer starts with a part of your brain most people have never heard of: the medial prefrontal cortex. This is the region responsible for something called self-referential thinking, which is a technical way of saying it tracks how you exist in the minds of other people, not just what you're doing, what others think you're doing. Psychologist Ray Crozier spent decades studying this exact question, and his research points to something surprising. Blushing doesn't happen because you did something wrong. It happens because you believe you are being watched and judged while it's happening. This is why you can blush over something that isn't even embarrassing. A stranger stares at you a second too long. Someone says your name in a crowded room. You feel eyes on you before you've done anything at all, and the blood rises anyway. Blushing, in other words, is not a reaction to an event. It's a reaction to being seen. Here's where it gets stranger. In 2009, researcher Corinne Dyke ran a series of experiments testing how blushing changes the way people are perceived. She expected people to view a blushing person as weak, or foolish, or embarrassed beyond repair. That's not what she found. Across multiple studies, people who blushed after a mistake were rated as more trustworthy, more likable, more socially safe to be around than people who showed no reaction at all. Read that again. The involuntary reddening of your face, the thing you cannot control and often want to hide, makes other people trust you more. Why would that be true? Because a blush cannot be faked, and your ancestors knew that, even if they didn't know why. In small hunter-gatherer groups, survival depended entirely on cooperation. You needed people to trust that you would share food, protect their children, and not betray the group the moment it benefited you. Words are cheap. Anyone can say, "I'm sorry," and not mean it, but a blush is involuntary. It cannot be performed on command, which means it cannot lie. When someone blushes after breaking a social rule, they are sending a signal no words can fake. I know I crossed a line, and it costs me something to have crossed it. That signal is expensive. In the biological sense, expensive signals are the only kind that can be trusted, because a cheater has no way to produce them convincingly. A blush is proof of social conscience written directly onto the skin. This is why blushing survived, not despite the fact that it exposes you, because it exposes you. Groups that could read sincere social discomfort in each other's faces could tell who was safe to keep close and who wasn't. The people who blushed were, paradoxically, the ones who got trusted with more. Now here's the twist most people never think about. You are the only animal on Earth that does this. Chimpanzees don't blush, dogs don't blush, no other species has skin capable of this specific, involuntary, socially triggered vasodilation. It is not a byproduct of having skin, or blood vessels, or emotions. Other animals have all three and none of them blush. This response had to be built, piece by piece, by natural selection, specifically because your ancestors lived in a world where being trusted by the group mattered more than being invisible to a predator. That tells you something important about what kind of animal you actually are. You were not shaped primarily by threats from outside the group, you were shaped by your standing inside it. There's a researcher named Mark Leary who has spent much of his career studying what he calls the sociometer theory. The idea is that your sense of self-esteem isn't really about you at all, it's a gauge, constantly running in the background, measuring how included or excluded you are by the people around you. When that gauge drops, when you sense you might be rejected, judged, or cast out, your body reacts before your conscious mind even catches up. The blush is one of the fastest, most visible outputs of that gauge malfunctioning in public, which means every time your face goes red, you are watching, in real time, a survival system built for a world that mostly doesn't exist anymore. You are not actually in danger of being exiled from a tribe of 30 people who control your access to food and safety, but your body doesn't know that it's still running code written for that world, because that world is where the code was written, and evolution never got a memo telling it the rules had changed. This is also why the moments that make you blush hardest are rarely the ones that are objectively serious. You can commit an actual mistake at work and feel calm, then someone mentions a small, silly thing you did years ago, in front of people you like, and your whole face goes hot. It was never about the size of the mistake. It was about the size of the audience, and how much you needed their approval. Think about the last time you blushed. Was anyone in danger? Was anything actually at stake? Probably not, but some part of you, older than language, older than agriculture, older than almost everything you'd call modern about yourself, decided that the eyes on you mattered enough to override your own control over your face. That's worth sitting with. Of all the things natural selection could have optimized in you, it built a mechanism that makes you involuntarily, visibly honest in front of other people, not because honesty is comfortable, because a species that can't fake sincerity is a species that can trust itself enough to survive together. So tonight, when you feel that heat rise in your face over something small, something you'll forget by next week, remember what's actually happening underneath it. You're not malfunctioning, you're not weak. You are running one of the oldest, most specifically human systems your body has, a system built by thousands of generations of people who needed each other to survive, and who needed a way to prove, without saying a word, that they could be trusted. The blush isn't a flaw in your design, it's the proof that you were built to belong.